The whole thing is confessions. I'm going to confess something else.
Hello and welcome to Confessions of a Reality Star, the podcast where we chat with some of the most famous, iconic and controversial reality TV stars of all time. I'm Lachlan Gurdon.
And I'm Talia Pritchard, and I'm so excited to be doing this podcast with you, Lachlan. We've been talking about this for a long time. We're both big reality TV fans.
And we've also been writing about reality TV for so long. You've been doing this for quite a while, right?
Yeah, about 84 years it feels like at this point in my life. Since 2014, I've been writing about and recapping reality TV across the Australian space. So I kind of feel like I know everything about it at this point, but also that I've just kind of spent the last decade of my life glued to the TV, which can't be good either. But what about your journey? What got you into all these crazy shows?
I think we had a similar start where we both created little reality TV blogs.
Big virgin energy.
We were interviewing reality stars. I loved at uni, I studied investigative journalism as part of my course. And for my assignment, it was all about reality TV. I love just deep diving into reality TV, interviewing the participants.
Wait, were people like doing crime and stuff? And you were like, here's my presentation on The Bachelor.
We're doing like, here's the drug busts in St. Kilda. And I was like, here's why Lorena didn't actually.
Here's why the honey badger should have never been the Bachelor.
Exactly that. So I've just loved writing about reality TV and being a part of that world for so long. And then I started getting paid to write about reality TV
dream.
When I started working at Yahoo Lifestyle in 2021. I feel like we really carved out a big space in the reality TV world. We were doing a lot more coverage, especially on Married at First Sight, interviewing a lot more people, going to more events, making more connections. And that's where I met you officially.
Yeah, I was nearly a reality TV retiree at this point, which is kind of wild that we're doing this podcast now because my journey was being part of a few recapping sites. I covered a lot of reality shows at BuzzFeed and then at Punky, which hardcore reality fans will know from like doing all the chaotic video recaps back in the day. And then when I left Punky in 2022, I was kind of like, look, I've been doing this for so long. Like, I don't know if I've got much left in the tank. Maybe it's time to turn the TV off. Maybe I need to go touch some grass. And then after a few months of freelancing, I ended up at Yahoo Lifestyle with you guys. And I knew your name and I knew the space you'd carved out there from doing all this stuff. I'm not even saying this to like suck up your ass, but yeah, I was like, oh, maybe it still exists out there. Yeah. Maybe it is fun again. And here we are.
And not to suck up to you, but I have been following along with your journey for a while.
I'll pay you later.
Working at Punky, working at BuzzFeed, and also hosting the official Channel 10 Bachelor Recap podcast.
Oh my God, I forgot about that. That is just in like some dark zone in my brain. Like, I think that was my first ever podcast I did, and I was shitting myself. Like, I had no idea what was going on.
We hosted our own podcast together at Yahoo called Behind the Edit. We recapped the 2024 season of Married at First Sight. We had such a fun time doing that, and afterwards we just kept talking about other project ideas.
It was just like, because the show had ended and we just poured so much of our lives into it, and there was a bit of a like reality TV dead zone for a bit. I just remember us in the office and we got really fixated on the idea of tracking down Blake Garvey. And we're like, where is Blake Garvey? And like Googling him. And I have reached out to him once before, like a few years ago when I was working at Punky, being like, want to chat? And he was like, no. He was very polite about it.
But you're very persistent. I feel like we had planned the full episode schedule.
We planned a whole podcast about investigating where Blake Garvey is now. If he's listening to this, don't worry, Blake. Like, but if you want to chat, contact us.
We're manifesting, we're putting it out there in episode 1 that we are going to chat with Blake Garvey at some point in this podcast.
Absolutely.
But that podcast led us to this podcast where we were speaking about iconic, nostalgic reality stars in Australia.
Yeah, because we've both been covering it for so long and also grew up in the landscape where so many reality shows in the noughties were so popular too. It was kind of like, yeah, it is fun to cover shows like Maths each year and The Block and whatever else, but also what about all the older shows and the people that have kind of like not faded into the background, because some are stars in their own right, but the stories that used to like grip a whole nation,
they just don't talk about it. I feel like people go on these shows, they have these big moments and they might talk about it or do an Instagram Q&A immediately after, but all these years later, I think once they're not connected to their contracts, they've got a lot more to say.
Absolutely. And it's also fun to kind of delve into their lives and figure out what they learned about being on the show like that. You know, some people might have had controversial edits. We know a lot more about the editing and producing side of things now years later than what we knew years ago too. Some people have become, like we said, stars in their own right, which kind of leads us to our first guest, Georgia Love.
Georgia Love has to be one of my favourite reality stars in Australia. She was the Bachelorette in 2016, the second season of the Bachelorette, and she's also the only Bachelorette who is still with their partner.
Which is actually wild when you think about it, because like you think of the show or the franchise and you're like, yeah, it has a pretty decent success rate, right? But most of those have been from The Bachelor, not The Bachelorette. So she's the one repping the women out here.
We are both big Georgia Love fans, as you can tell.
Huge.
We had the best time chatting with her. She spoke all about the secret diaries she was keeping during filming, how she always knew Lee was the one, and what her relationship is like with runner-up Matty J, who ended up being the next Bachelor.
Yeah, she actually spilt so much tea, and I'm really excited for everyone to hear it.
So, Georgia Love, it's time to confess. Welcome to Confessions of a Reality Star, Georgia.
Oh my goodness, thank you so much. I don't mean to plug another podcast straight up the top, but my best friend has a podcast called Confessions. So these are like my two loves combined.
Beautiful.
Wow.
To kick us off, we ask every guest if you have anything you want to confess this week.
Okay, so when you asked me to think about this, I was like, right, how deep are we going? And then I realized I'm actually honest to a fault, so I don't have any secrets. I'm so sorry. But one thing popped into my mind because this has plagued me for about 28 years. It was early days in primary school, and I remember this so vividly. So I've always been a word nerd and like a real kind of grammar Nazi and spelling Nazi. And we were doing a group thing in primary school, and it was about road safety. And a boy in my class who was in my group called Patrick Donegan said the word curb. And I went, that's not a word, it's curve. And he was adamant. He was going, no, it's curb on the road. It's a curb. I was like, it's a curve. We got into this full argy-bargy about it. And the teacher came over. She didn't know what the conversation was. She just heard that it was about spelling or words. And the teacher said, Patrick, Georgia is very good at spelling and very good at words. She's correct. And I was like, yeah, I am. And then years later, I heard the word curb for the first time, and it has genuinely plagued me ever since. So Patrick Donegan, if you ever hear this, I'm really sorry, you were right. And I never say that, but you were right.
You fully gaslit him.
I didn't mean to, though. I didn't gaslight him. I just absolute little shit at him. Also, how's my teacher being like, she's really good? And I was like, yeah. I am.
Says a lot about you as a student.
Well, as a person, I think, actually. I'm so sorry.
That is an amazing confession. I hope Patrick finds this somehow and listens to it. And maybe like all these years later, he's finally like free.
I wonder if it's plagued him as well, being like, that shit. I knew I was
He watched
right.
your season and he was like, damn you.
And he's been sitting there for years saying, guys, it's actually curve. This really smart girl at school taught me.
Is there anything you want to confess this week, Talia? Can you top that?
I have no filter, Georgia. So anytime I'm asked this, I kind of panic and then I just say, like you said before, you're honest to a fault. I'm also the same. I'm like, I need to just make up like nicer stories or something where I don't sound like such an idiot all the time. But here we go. We're going into it. I have been really desperate lately because that's it. That's the end.
I love it.
Okay. I have been single for quite some time. I've dated a lot. I've been through the absolute trenches and I feel like I know game playing. I know all that shit. I know what it's like to use social media and do that stuff. Right now I'm finding myself putting up more Instagram stories for the attention of one specific person, even though I know it's a nightmare. And like, I think the beauty of this is by the time we release this episode, I'll probably forget his name and I won't know who he is anymore. But I realize I'm acting like a teenage girl on freaking MySpace who's like changing their top friends or like putting up a song or, you know, like a song on MSN or something or other. Because he is replying to my stories, but that's the only time we talk. So I've gone into this like really bad cycle.
No,
and
it's like, not bad. I'm all about that.
Oh, but I just like, I know I rationalize it in my brain. I was like, he's not that into you. If he was, he would line up like a second date or whatever. But instead, I'm just playing this stupid game with myself on Instagram.
Yeah, in your mind, you're like,
it's tragic.
He might be really into me if I look really hot in this Instagram story.
100%.
Or like sound really funny. Maybe he will be there.
I'm like, he can't forget about me. Not with my 10 stories a day.
I'll find you.
And I just thought, like, I was just like, I'm in my 30s now. You know what I mean? I was like, what am I doing?
I love it. I'm all for that.
It might work out. Who knows? The next week,
I'm sure we'll be married soon. Yeah.
Stay tuned.
It'll work out. Lachlan, take the heat off me, please.
Speaking of stalker,
Oh.
I have a confession that involves you, Georgia. And I wasn't sure if I should confess this or if I should die with this.
Confess.
But your season of The Bachelorette was in 2016, the end of 2016. I moved to Melbourne in 2017. So by the time watching your season, I was aware what I was moving to Melbourne, watching your season, thinking, oh, I could go there, I could go there. I also was fully convinced I would move to Melbourne and we would become best friends.
Oh,
now, I want to clarify that we have never met, we've never spoken before, but I had in my head in 2017, we would just become best friends in Melbourne.
Okay, I'm obsessed with this because here we are now, and you did stalk me down until I did this podcast with you.
I finally got you, Georgia.
Yay! Okay, I love this, and this is now reminding me of another confession that I'm going to say. So, MasterChef in, I reckon it was 2013, there was a guy from Tasmania on it named, quote, Hot MasterChef Ben. Well, that was what he was named in our house anyway.
Yeah.
And he was from Tassie. And while his season was on air, I happened to get a job in Tassie. So it became this joke in my family that I was going to stalk Hot MasterChef Ben. And then I ended up meeting him, and now we are friends. Don't worry, he knows that story. Well, he might not know about the Hot MasterChef Ben bit. But I was like to my whole family, like, I've found him. Don't worry, it's going to happen. I mean, it didn't happen. Spoiler alert, I had to go on The Bachelor a couple of years later because it didn't happen. But yeah, shout out to him as well.
The whole time on The Bachelorette, you were probably waiting for him to enter as a contestant. You're like, Channel 10 connection, surely.
Oh my God,
Damn.
you're right. I didn't manifest hard enough.
I'm glad you're still friends, though. It's promising for me.
Very promising. I love this. Okay.
I think I'm
thanks,
learning from you
bestie.
two now, though. Like, I was like, so if I just manifest hard enough, I'm going to sort my own problem out.
Or just move to the place where the person lives that you want to be best friends or lovers with. Ew, why do you say lovers? I hate that. How old
Where
am
is
I?
this going to go for us,
I don't know
Georgia?
why that's the first time I ever just said that. Okay, I have a crush on you. That's my other confession.
Lee's out there shaking somewhere.
She has taken a lover.
I mean, I've already touched on my love for Georgia Love, but there's no denying that your season of The Bachelorette was the best that Australia has ever seen, will ever see. We just can't wait to just ask you so many questions that you're probably like, why are we talking about this?
No,
but
because I never talk about it anymore because it was so long ago and we're just such a boring old married couple now.
So I guess with your season, you were following on from Sam Frost, who had obviously been on Blake Garvey's season before that, so she had a bit of a profile. You had a bit of a profile, you know, doing some new stuff, maybe in Tassie at least. I don't know.
Profile in Tassie does not count.
Still counts. It counts to the people of Tassie. Did you feel a lot of pressure coming in as someone who was like relatively unknown though to step in the shoes of someone like Sam Frost who had been the season before you?
Yes and no. I think in a way, yes. The kind of pressure was more that I didn't kind of think I looked or was like a typical bachelorette. Like you look at the ones in America and they're all like these tiny blonde, gorgeous Barbie girls. And Sam's so gorgeous and so tiny. And I was kind of like, I'm very normal. I'm not sure if you chose the right person or definitely only chose me because of my last name. So there, I kind of felt a little bit of pressure around that, not in a way that I felt like I had to look a certain way. Also, I had like 3 weeks notice that I was going to do it. So even if I did want to start hitting the gym, I didn't have time. But it was more, pressure's probably the wrong word. It was probably more of a like questioning why they chose me. But then it's also a no to the pressure to kind of live up to that because I was just a person picked from the public. I didn't come with any preconceived ideas about me or, you know, had done a season before, had done anything like that. So it was nice to be able to just kind of come in and be me and not feel like I had to be someone else that people might have previously thought I was, because no one knew I was before.
Did you watch Sam's season and then apply, or what was that like?
So I definitely watched Sam's season. I was a massive Bachelor and Bachelorette fan, massive. And I'd actually just been dumped during Sam's season. And I was living with my best friend at the time, and I was sitting there going, why does she get to find love and I don't? And I think I manifested this. This is one thing, like truly manifested this. Because I was saying that and I was like, I want to do that. I want to have guys lining up for me because I had my heart broken by this other guy. And then 2 things over the next year. One, I put up a photo on, I think it was Snapchat then. It was definitely Snapchat then. Like on the couch with my friend and like drew a rose in my hand. And I was like, right, that's it. This is my application for Bachelorette next year. And then like early in the next year, I did another one. I was at the Hobart Cup actually, and there was a rose bush and I like posed next to it and was like, coming for you, Bachelorette, ha, ha, ha. Just never thought about it. It was a joke. And then I got a cold call out of the blue in about April 2016 saying that my name had come up in their kind of hunt for people who might be interested in applying. And all I still know to this day is that a nurse in Hobart suggested my name, which is maybe a bit sad that someone knew that the newsreader was single and desperate.
There you go, that Tasmanian profile.
Yeah, there we go. Put up those Instagram stories. People might see them, Talia. Yeah, so that year they wanted someone who wasn't known, but were looking for someone that was kind of really involved with their community or charities or things like that. And yeah, a nurse in Tassie said, I think our newsreader would kind of be good for that. So they called me. Wow. And then I had to go through the process from there. I took the whole thing as a bit of a lull. I thought, well, obviously this is never going to happen, but how funny to be able to talk about that time I like went through the process. And as it went further along, I was like, well, I'm still in this process. This is weird. And then I started to probably take it a bit more seriously because I was like, this would actually be incredible. And like I said before, they definitely chose me because my last name was very easy for them to promo.
It did help a lot in the promos. That was like the main word. It was iconic.
I still remember this, like the first ad they put out. It was so cringe. It had me going, I've always been loved by name. I guess now I'm going to be loved by nature. So bad.
What's the relationship like with the other bachelorettes then? Like, was there sort of a baton pass from Sam to you and then to Sophie Monk?
So I didn't speak to Sam beforehand because I wasn't announced until I was already in lockdown and in the mansion and, you know, didn't have my phone or anything. So she didn't know it was me. I didn't have a way to speak to her. But then I spoke to her afterwards and we're quite good friends. She's amazing. I love her. But I would have loved to have been able to speak to her beforehand for a bit of, you know, there's so few people that know what that whole situation is like. So when Sophie was announced and then the same with Angie as well, who was the next one, I actually reached out to them because they were both announced before they actually started. So I reached out to them and I just said, you know, if you want to chat about anything, I know I would have loved to. You might not, totally fine, have the best time. It's amazing. And both of them did. So I had long phone calls with both of them before they went in, just to kind of talk about, you know, the whole weirdness and what to expect, and not advice because, you know, we're all different people, but just kind of a bit of what to expect. And I think my main thing was take it all in and treat it seriously and live in the moment were my 2 big things that I really did myself. I thought this is such a wild experience. There'd be so many people who would love to do this. Take it all in and remember everything. My sister actually gave me a diary to take in, and she said every single night write down the thoughts you had that day, you know, even if it's just in dot points. It might help you, you know, towards the end when you're looking back and thinking, who do I want to be with? Or it might just be something cool you can look at in 10 years and go, oh my God, that's so weird, I was thinking like that. So I gave them both that advice as well. And yeah, it was actually just also really cool because I'm a normie and I was on the phone to Sophie Monk. I was like, this is so cool.
I love that. How often do you read back on your notebook now?
Oh,
Would you do it now to reminisce or not at all?
No,
have
it's
it
a
next
bit
to you
weird.
right now?
It's in that cupboard up there, actually. I can see it right there. I'm not going. I'll get it. I'll get it.
Okay.
There's 2. I wrote a lot.
Oh my gosh.
All right.
She had a lot to say.
I'm
The
gonna open it
unpublished
up.
works of Georgia Love.
Oh my god!
First
I forgot
page,
this
Lee,
part of
hot.
it. She there's all like cards from my best friends in there. I mean,
Oh, that's cute.
there's definitely not, because I definitely didn't tell my best friends beforehand because I wasn't allowed to. Oh my god! Whoops. Okay.
Did Lee go through this with you, or has he seen
Oh,
these?
no way, he didn't go through it. I'm like writing about all my dates with other people and what I thought in the moment. He had to watch it. That was bad enough. Okay,
Did you write it as dot points or was it more like paragraphs?
No, it is like, again, I'm a word nerd. Maybe I'll release this one day. Okay, I'm going to open up to a page where I can see the name Lee, and I'm going to read something about it. This is early on. Now, only 2 guys in, I get my first interjection. Oh, this must be the very first cocktail party. Aaron walks over and asks if he can interrupt. I don't really know the protocol, and neither does Lee. There we go. So I was with Lee. So we kind of finish up our chat, and in comes Aaron. And he has cheat cards for me. Anyway. Oh, hang on. No, I will read the next line. First thing I think of is Michael Turnbull from Sam Frost season, and how much I hated him giving cheat cards about himself to Sam last year. Oh my God, this is amazing. I'm going to finish my champagne and go through that all after we finish chatting. Thank you.
Oh my
for
God, that is...
reminding
Let's
me
throw out
about
the
that.
rest of these questions, and you just spend the next half an hour
reading the journal. I'm going to flick through and see what my first thoughts of Lee were, and then I'm going to let you get back to your actual podcast.
No, I love this. This is
taken over.
the best derailing so far.
Oh my God.
I'm
Okay,
also
so-
interested what the last page is.
Yeah, I was like going to say, did you...
No, so I actually stopped after the hometowns. I was exhausted and like my head was a bit of a mess, and I was like, I'll go back and write these later, and of course I never did.
Yeah.
So it says day 4. This is where it all really begins. That was the I'm such a nerd. Okay, let me flick to Lee. Let me find him. Then walks out Cam. It's also really funny because Cam, if anyone remembers Cam the fireman, he's like one of our very best friends in the world now. So I don't really want to read that because that might be weird. Oh, here we go. A quick blanket break. Oh, that's the other thing. It was the 4th of June in the west of Sydney in the middle of the night, and I was wearing like a mesh dress. I have
Oh my God.
never been more cold in my life. They get me to wait, but there's no limo. Waiting, still no limo. Then I see a guy walking around the corner with a donkey wearing a sombrero and a poncho, no less. The donkey, Lee wasn't. But this poor donkey does not want to come any closer. I walked down to try to help, but she didn't want a bar of me either. This guy, Lee, tries chatting with me down there, but the director's saying in my ear that the cameras can't see him because he's in the wrong spot. So I was just saying, let's just chat up there. It was really awkward, and he was so embarrassed, the poor guy. I went back up the steps, and he ended up having to ditch the donkey. All the while I'm yelling out ass jokes to try to break the awkwardness. I got him to pretend it had worked and replay what would have happened. Turns out the whole point was for him to make the joke, does my ass look big in this? Hilarious. This guy had come to me with a pun/dad joke. I've written, I'm such a dork. Oh, and I haven't even mentioned yet how ridiculously good looking he is. Oh my God, he goes on to tell me another dad joke about sashimi to match my wasabi joke I'd just told, and said he's from Melbourne. We have oh my God, I'm such a nerd. I have written to myself, we have a big time front runner here, people. Oh my God. Oh, and then there's a little asterisk that says, didn't mention Lee gave me his jacket. How sweet. There you go.
Oh my
Wow.
God.
That's the moment I met my husband. We have a front runner here, people.
I love this so much.
Wow.
Did you mention that line in your wedding vows then?
No, I forgot about it
You
until
forgot
right
about it.
now. We did say the wasabi and sushi joke in our wedding speeches, though. Like the first thing we said to each other was like dorky punning at each other. It's so embarrassing. And I said to him, that was a really bold move because most people hate that kind of humor. And he said, yeah, but I love it. So I wanted to say it to see how you'd react.
I feel like your red carpet meeting was like honestly one of the best in the franchise. At what
you
point?
say that to everyone.
I certainly do not. At what point in the season do you kind of think, okay, everyone else can go home. I'm picking Lee at the end.
So he was my favourite from that night. I mean, there it is in my own handwriting. But this is the whole thing is confessions. I'm going to confess something else. So the first night you give the special rose to someone that gives them like, you know, a special kind of power. And the power that it had on my season was that they got to take me on a single date and also choose the activity for a group date. And he was my favourite that night, so I wanted to give him that rose. And the producers actually said to me, he's really nervous on camera. Like, he's a great guy, very happy for you to take him on all the dates you like, but he's really, really, really bad on camera. So I don't think he could, like, carry 2 dates and, like, having to explain why he's doing it and kind of carry the 2 dates. So they asked me to choose someone else. So I did, which is fine. I liked the other guy. Yeah, Courtney. Oh my God, you do remember. So that's why I didn't choose Lee for that special rose, but he was actually my favourite from that night. And one of the girls who, she wasn't a producer, but she was like kind of a junior in the production team, who we colloquially called my minder because I had, you know, someone in the house and who drove me to and from. She would say to me at certain points, just to test me, like to make me think about it, right, top 2 right now, just to kind of make me go, okay, who's like in my head the most? And Lee's the only one who was every single time in that top 2. The second one always changed.
That's so interesting. Do you think even knowing that Lee was really nervous on camera and quite shy and reserved on camera, did that make him endearing to you too? Because then you kind of are like, oh, he really is here for the right reasons if he's not taking a shine to being filmed.
Yeah, very much, because he was really awkward. It's so funny to watch back on because he's not like that at all. And I watch it, he's got this like really quiet voice and he's speaking really properly because he was super nervous. But yeah, that did, I wasn't thinking, you know, straight up, oh, he's nervous on camera, obviously, until they said that. But I was just kind of like, oh, this guy's so, like, you know, soft and sweet. And he certainly didn't come across like a wanker or, you know, someone who just wanted to be on TV. Quite the opposite, in fact. He hates being on TV. He just thought it would be an amazing experience. And he was approached about it too. And we both are the same kind of person that, you know, yes people. And we're going, if you're given an amazing opportunity, why not? So that's why he did it. But he found out very quickly he doesn't like cameras. He loves a camera. He's a very beautiful man, but not a video camera.
So we're not seeing like a Jessica Simpson, Nick Lachey style marriage reality show in your future.
Oh my God, no. Absolutely not. He would hate nothing more.
It's getting on a bit more of a sad note now, but while filming the show, your mum was obviously really, really sick and you had to be going through that while you're navigating the challenges of dating a lot of straight men at the same time. Do you think the situation you were in and having to, like, I guess even deal with that grief and that sadness while you're getting to know these men, did it help you weed out who was really there for genuine reasons and who could be like comforting in those moments too?
Oh yeah, hugely. So that was a really big thing at the front of my mind was I might go through, so if anyone who doesn't know, Mum was diagnosed with cancer just before I went on the show. And that's what kind of made me take the whole thing a bit more seriously about wanting to be on it too, because I was like, you know, I want someone by my side, and my mum and dad had such a beautiful love, and I want that too. So I did really consciously think I might go through something really hard. Well, I am going through something hard. I didn't know she was terminal at that point, but obviously with the C word, you always think that could be a possibility. So I thought whether I'm going to have to, you know, help my mum support her through her recovery, or whether I lose her, there's, you know, really hard times coming up in my future. So maturity and kind of my idea on how someone would handle that themselves, but also if I felt like they would really be there to support me was a big thing. And I definitely felt that with Lee. This never went to air, but he told me very early on that his dad had bladder cancer only a couple of years before, and his dad survived, but I thought, he kind of really understands the gravity, and he took that very seriously as well. So that was also really, endearing, but also really important. And he always seemed very mature, and I thought I feel like he's someone that's going to stand by me. And I mean, the guys that are not there for the right reasons stand out like a sore thumb anyway. But that probably, even in, the dying days of it all, that was a big thing always in my mind, who's going to potentially have to be there through the really hard times sooner rather than later as well. So, yeah, and here we are.
How did you navigate that time after the show? You've got your new relationship. There's obviously the public pressure and all the eyes on you two, and then you're dealing with the loss of your mum at the same time. I can't even imagine how difficult that must have been for you.
Yeah, it's so bizarre to think about because I obviously don't know an alternative. That's how it happened. So the timing of it kind of in real time was we finished filming at the end of August, and then the finale aired at the end of October. So those months I was in a relationship with Lee, but no one knew it. We only could see each other a couple of times in secret over then. And so when the finale aired, that's when we could then kind of walk out on the street together. And it was literally 24 hours later that my mum died. So I don't know how it would have been otherwise. That's just the cards we were dealt. But it's fucked. That timing's fucked. The only silver lining in that dark cloud is that because I was in the public eye, then I was meant to be doing the publicity rounds and everything. Obviously didn't do that. The fact that people knew what had happened, so people were very kind and left me alone a bit more, which is, I think the best wording for it probably is a silver lining. It's obviously not a positive, but for me and Lee as a couple, it was really hard because I'm going through the depths of this grief that I didn't understand. He didn't understand, but he also didn't really know me very well then. And he's learning who I am, and we're trying to navigate the start of a relationship with this really heavy grief as well. So, it was really hard for him. Obviously, it was for me too. But we got through it, and he was a great support through that too. And I'm really thankful my mum got to meet him a couple of times. She was very unwell when she did, but he broke the publicity rules and came and met her because she was so unwell. So that's really important for me to know that she met him and she loved him, of course. So, it was really, really, really tricky, but we were able to do a lot of it behind closed doors, whereas from watching other seasons and seeing how they do it in that those first couple of months, there's so much intense publicity and being followed and everything. So I think we did get left alone a little bit because of that, which was needed, but probably a positive thing in that really hard time, really dark time.
I was going to ask how many rules that you guys were able to kind of break along the way. Obviously, it's very important for Lee to be able to meet your mother too, but obviously we also know when the show finishes filming, they try to keep it really hush-hush, and there might only be one or two times you can see each other. Were there incidents other than Lee meeting your mother where you guys managed to sneak in a night or two without producers knowing?
A very drunken Lee did, unbeknownst to me. Because obviously we were both living in the same city as well. So if we were ever going out, we'd have to say to each other, like, I'm going here, make sure you don't go there. And it was AFL Grand Final night, and I was with my friends, and one of them suggested, let's go to this bar. And it was actually the bar that Lee had taken me to on our hometown visit. So I messaged him and I was like, oh my God, how hilarious is this? This is where we're going. Ha, ha, ha. Have a good night. And in his drunken post-watching AFL Grand Final with his friends state, he thought, oh my God, it'd be so cool to surprise her and see each other across the bar and be like, oh my God, that's my girlfriend, but no one knows. So he rocked up and I didn't see him, but one of my friends ran up to me and goes, one of the guys from your show is here. And I was like, which one? She was like, oh my God, Lee, he's here. And then she was like, well, I know you don't pick him because you wouldn't have just accidentally rocked up at the same bar. So I'm messaging him madly being like, get out, you can't be here. And he's like, I wanted to see my girlfriend. But then my friend lost money because when she found out who the final two were, she was like, well, I know it's not Lee, so she put money on Matty.
So who did you tell once you had picked Lee? Like, who knew that he was your winner?
So only my two best friends, who were the ones that I definitely didn't tell beforehand I was going on. I told a few people beforehand. But yeah, I only told my two best friends who I'd picked because I wanted to have that kind of fun experience of like watching them and see what they thought. But then I ended up telling my family, obviously, when Mum got more sick, I wanted her to know. My sister claims she knew from day one because my sister and my dad came on the final episode to meet the final two boys, and she was like, oh my God, it was so obvious. Actually, it was so obvious to her that she went on holiday after that, before it had started airing or anything, and she got me a little like a memento thing made with Georgia and Lee engraved on it because she wanted to be able to be like, told you so. So she was that confident. Yeah, but so only my mum, my dad, my sister, my two best friends, and then Lee only told two people as well. Because we wanted to like, that's such a cool thing for us to see, and go, what do you think? But two of Lee's friends have admitted since that he accidentally told them without realising. One of them, he said, they said, do you really get to know the person on it that well? And he goes, you actually do. There's so much time off camera that you don't see. But obviously I've got to know her a lot better since. And they were like, yeah. And then I think it was leaked pretty early that Matty and Lee were the final two. And someone said to him after that, would you ever do The Bachelor if they asked? And he goes, nah, they'll get Matty. And so they were like, well, why would they get Matty if he's with Georgia? So
wow.
So we accidentally told a couple of other people.
Do you know what? That's actually bringing up a memory in my head. So I was doing the chats with the two boys before the finale aired. Mm-hmm. And I remember chatting with Lee and chatting with Matty, and they were one after another. I was actually at BuzzFeed at the time, now that I think about it, not Punky. But I do remember I got off the phone to Lee. I was like, he's won. Like, really? I was like, it was just so obvious. Yeah. I can't remember what he said now in the chat, but it was the day before the finale aired. And just the way he was talking about you, like Matty was doing the PR thing, and it was kind of like you could have bought into it if you like didn't know better. It was just like a phrase that Lee used at some point where I was like, oh, there's just no doubt about it.
He's a shocking liar. He's a terrible liar, which is a great trait in a partner because he can see right through it. But yeah, he's a terrible liar.
I'm going to have to go find that article now because I was like, it'll be out there somewhere, the interview. Like, I just remembered that as you were talking and I was like, that's so...
Oh my God, amazing.
It's so weird that they organised pre-finale chats though.
Yeah, they did that a couple times to do the pre-chats. I don't know why, but like...
Because they've stopped that for the last few seasons, so maybe that was Lee's fault. They were like, he's giving
absolutely.
too much away.
Something else that was our fault was one of the chats that we did afterwards. They said, how did you not get found out? Tell us about the secret meetups, blah, blah, blah. And Lee said, and it was with someone from the Daily Telegraph as well. And Lee said, when we were flying, because our finale was in Singapore, when we were flying home from Singapore, we were on different flights and they flew me around to all different places in case I was being followed, so they didn't know where I was going. And like they put a different name on the ticket, like I wasn't flying under my name, I was flying on this made up name, ha ha ha. And then the next day, the front cover of like the front page of the Daily Telegraph in Sydney was like Bachelorette couple break law flying under like different names. And we were like, oh, whoops. I didn't, but he did.
That's so funny.
Oh my God, wow. I know. Whoops. So again, he's a bad liar. He just like says what he thinks.
But a great trait in a partner.
Exactly.
At the end of the day, you don't want them to be too good at lying.
Correct.
One thing I've actually found really interesting, I guess, probably as a journalist too, and I don't know if you've noticed it on your end, but I think when people talk about the success couples from the Bachelor franchise, they always seem to mention the men, and I feel like you and Lee sometimes get left out of like the successful couples list.
Always.
Like, why do you think that is?
We get left out every single time. I don't think I'm a mad feminist, but this one I don't think is a female versus male thing. I think it's because they do see The Bachelor and The Bachelorette as different shows. It's the same franchise, but they're always talking about the success of Bachelor. And Lee and I are the only couple from The Bachelorette still together, so I think that they just don't really talk about that, because then that brings up the fact that there was 6 unsuccessful ones. So yeah, I think that the fact that we are still together highlights that the others aren't more, and there are many more successful Bachelor couples. So I think that's why. But we're always like, well, we're still together too.
Yeah, like we exist. We're in love.
Yeah.
If we talk about one of the Bachelors, one that you know very well, Matty J.
Yep.
Firstly, knowing that Sam Frost's season had a contestant turn into a Bachelor, did you think at all with your cast one of you could be the next Bachelor?
You know what? I didn't, but I probably should have. Like I said earlier, I took it all really kind of seriously. I was really invested and thinking about it just from who of these people do I want to be with, and is one of these people going to be my person? And I didn't think of it as, you know, a TV show or what's going to happen next year, but I probably should have, because it was very, very, very bizarre, because it was only like 3 months later that he actually signed on to do it. And, you know, the incredibly weird thing about this show is that you're told on a certain date you have to pick one person on this date, and then you won't see the other person ever again. But you're going to spend the same amount of time with both of those people, and then you're just never going to be able to see them again. And like, I absolutely loved Matty. I'm mad almost at myself in hindsight for him being the person that was there until the end, because I think that we would have been like best friends. And because it kind of went so far, we're not, but I just loved being around him so much. So I was sad that then it was kind of like, well, I won't really have you in my life, because that's a bit weird and inappropriate. But so it was super weird then him popping up as the Bachelor so soon afterwards, because it was like, oh, that's the first time I'm seeing you again since. How odd. But I mean, how perfect. He found the love of his life, and they're married and have 2 beautiful girls and are so happy. So it's so perfect, but it was super weird at the time. It was not hard. It was just really odd, I think, because I kind of was like, I want to be able to, reach out, but it was just a bit weird to do so. I've seen him since, and yeah.
Did you watch any of his seasons?
Yeah, I did. Again, a massive Batch stan, so I watched all of it, but it was odd. It was just super odd, and I felt like watching him was super different to meeting him and of course, being the main person is very different to being one of the guys. But yeah, it was just weird. It felt like watching a different person, but he was in a very different role.
He couldn't really escape you either. I think even his season was on, because I specifically remember making this meme too of like people were comparing you and Laura a lot.
Yeah.
And there was like one painting they had
God.
a painting day, and it was like reveal the photo. I remember making the meme.
Did you make that?
Yeah,
Oh
and it
my
was like your face
God.
instead.
Oh my God, my friends and I laugh about that all the time. It's a really good meme. Okay, so it's super
Sorry,
weird.
Matty.
So I knew before it started that a girl called Laura had won. And then in the first episode...
Wait. What was your source? How did you know that?
A journalist never reveals her sources, Lachlan. Please, good try. And then, watching the first episode, like they spoke about in the episode, they had a bunch of the girls at the cocktail party being like, oh my God, she looks like Georgia Love, so he's either going to love her or hate her. And I was sitting there going, this is a bit awkward. I don't think we look alike at all, but she's absolutely stunning, so I will take that as a compliment.
What's your relationship like with Matty and I guess Laura now as well? Like, have you laughed about all the memes, or what's the relationship?
No, well, they're in Sydney and we're in Melbourne, so we've only seen each other a couple of times at events and stuff. I've interviewed them at the Melbourne Cup when I was working with Studio 10. I interviewed them because they just got engaged, which was so nice. It was such a lovely thing to be able to do. It was like, oh my God, I'm married and you're engaged. How cool is this? But yeah, we haven't, like, we kind of will speak when we see each other, but just kind of laughed about how weird is it that we're all here now engaged, and that's how we all met. Just bizarre. Oh, wow. It's so weird. It's so weird because I forget it all the time. Like, he'll come in with dirty shoes and he hasn't unstuck the dishwasher and he's annoying me. And I'm like, oh God, remember how we met? It's so weird.
That's so good. We have to get into... Actually, do you know what? We have to dob on some guys from your season first.
Please!
So we were trying to have this like special guest appearance. We get someone to surprise the person, our guest, with a voice memo.
Oh my
so
God.
we had reached out to two.
Reach out to two. I don't know. Should we name them?
Yes.
Should we name and shame?
You can decide if you want to bleep the names later, but you need to tell me.
Yeah.
We reach out, Lachlan specifically, because he's got the blue tick, so no one opens my mouth.
It didn't work though.
To Cam.
Oh.
Cam did not open. He did not respond.
What?
Yeah, so you've got to give your bestie some words
I
there.
And then
will.
the other person did not respond. They were also meant to send one, and that was Jake.
Jake? Oh my God, they're two people I speak to all the time. I'm going to yell at both of them for you.
To be fair, Jake was on a time crunch. He was positive about it. He was keen. Maybe
He did
he'll send it
reply. He
tonight.
did reply
Jake.
initially.
I know Jake well enough to know he would love to get his voice on a podcast and get a bit of publicity. Love you, Jake. No, Jake and I have stayed really good friends. He actually lost his mum to cancer only a couple of years later, so we've been in touch about that as well. And we're still good mates. And like I said earlier, Cam's apparently one of my besties. I'll yell at him after
He was like
this.
a podcast about Georgia.
Ew.
Dolly.
Been there, done that 8 years ago.
We were going to get Jake to try and describe himself as like a mystery voice or something to see if you could guess who it was.
I would 100% know it. 100%.
You say that now, but it was going to be a great game.
It would have been an amazing game.
Well, look, we might be able to get him on the podcast anyway.
Oh, yeah,
if
yeah.
he wants,
Well, he's
you
been
know.
on 2 seasons or 3 because he was on Bachelor in Paradise.
3.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, he'll do it. He'll do it.
a whole bunch of shows.
Oh, yeah.
What else do you kind of want to tackle now? I mean, you've got your podcast, you're doing radio. What's on Georgia Love's bucket list?
You know what? I've never been someone that has kind of set goals or expectations, and I think it's the nature of my career is always this industry takes so many twists and turns. I never would have put on a goal list or a bucket list that I'd live in Tassie. I would have thought, no way, I don't want to do that. And it was the best time of my life moving down there for a job. And I just feel like you never know what's around the corner. So I don't kind of go, right, I want to tick this off in this year and tick that off. I really love radio. So I feel like I've really found a new passion and a new love there. So I'm happy. It's great. It's great still doing news. And then I've got my own podcast, Everyone Has an Ex. And I'm launching another one in the new year, Watch This Space. It's not called Watch This Space. I'm just telling you to watch this space. And that's a really beautiful way of still, I love hearing and telling people's stories. So I love that as well. So I'm really, really happy in everything I'm doing. So I'm just going to keep riding the wave and we'll see what happens. But I don't have any, I'll be in this place in 5 years or anything. I'm just really happy doing what I'm doing.
I just realized one of my confessions, it should have been when you first launched Everybody Has an Ex, and I think it was before the season even launched and people were looking, you were looking for bad breakup stories.
Yes.
I remember sending one in about me. But then I was like, oh my God, I can't believe it wasn't chosen.
Oh my God,
and then I
did
listened to
you?
the first season. Yeah, I did. And then I listened to the first season and I heard some of the stories and I was like, oh God, mine's not that bad in comparison to what other people are going
Oh my
through.
God, that's probably what it was. Because we get so many submissions of people, and your own breakup is the worst thing in the world.
Yeah,
But some of the
yeah.
stories we have are wild, and so I think people listen and go, "Oh, okay, yeah, that's different."
Oh,
to mine."
100%. I think mine needed an extra layer. So my very short version is I ended up walking in on my ex cheating on me with one of my really good friends. But like it was pretty much cut and done after that. You know, like it was just like they got together, they denied it a lot, whatever. But then I was listening to I love the podcast. I've listened to nearly every season. I'm a bit behind at the moment, and then I was listening to other people's stories and like you just hear some of the shit that goes down, and I was like, oh, I got out pretty well actually.
You didn't.
Now that I think about it.
No, you didn't. Well, mistake telling me that because I'm hitting you up for season 6, which we're starting soon. So,
Yes.
oh my god,
Finally.
So you've revealed the twist
somewhere.
now.
Like fuck.
Yeah, exactly. We'll change the names. Don't worry.
I was just about to say them out loud. I was like, actually no.
Defamation.
Beep and beep.
It was Jake and Cam.
Exactly. Would we ever see you on reality TV again in a completely different capacity, whether it was like Dancing with the Stars or like I'm a Celeb or any of those shows? Would you ever be
Oh my God,
tempted?
I would kill to do Dancing with the Stars. Like, I would pay them. Honestly, can you imagine getting to wear sequins and like being taught how to ballroom dance? I would love it. Yeah, they've never asked me. That's fine. I'm fine.
That surprises me.
No, it's not, because I'm just a news nerd that was on reality TV for 3 months, 8 years ago. Like, it's not surprising. I'm not a star.
But how many Bachelor stars have been on Dancing with the Stars? Like, there's been quite a few.
No offense, but how many like unrecognizable names? Sometimes I'm looking at the lineup being like, who the hell is that?
Well-
But if Georgia Love was there, I'd know.
Oh, you're very biased, and I love you, and I'll pay you later. I would 100% do that. I would love to do that. I've probably made it to public that I would love to do that, and they're like, this girl's a weirdo, don't let her into this studio. But no, nothing else. I was asked to do SAS, and I was like, hey, I'm not stupid. I know you're stitching me up here because you don't think I'd be good at that. You know that I wouldn't, and you'll be able to point and laugh at me when I fail. So no, thank you.
Yeah.
I don't want to do burpees in the middle of the night in the mud. Absolutely not. I have a very comfortable bed and heating and cooling at home. Thank you very much.
I think that you can't argue with that.
That is very
It
fair.
seems like a nightmare.
Sorry.
Do they try to offer you a dollar amount in those situations to like get you on board, or
Oh, yeah.
is that not even discussed?
Yeah. They would have. I don't remember what it was because it was so never happening. Honestly, hand on my heart, if they offered me $5 million to do SAS, I wouldn't do it. It's my
$5 million.
It is my literal nightmare. Like, I don't like
Does this
doing
apply-
a burpee at the gym when I'm planning on doing a burpee.
Fair.
No,
Is it the similar situation to I'm a Celebrity? Would you also turn that down if they came knocking on your door?
Oh, I mean, it's not a similar situation at all. $5 million to do I'm a Celebrity, I'm here for, if anyone's listening. No, I'm a Celebrity, I think, is very different. Like, the reason I wouldn't do SAS is because of the horrible physical part of it. I don't want to do that. That said, I'm a Celebrity looks horrible and physical too. I don't know. I just feel like I know other people would look at me as a reality TV person because obviously I did a reality TV show. But for me, that was, 3 months of my life 8 years ago, that I kind of forget that that's why anyone might know my name. So I don't know. I don't think they'd be interested anyway.
You know that they'd have 2 viewers in us at least.
Also, I'm just like, I love Australian celebrities. I'm such a dork. So if whenever I get to meet any, I fangirl. So I think it would just be a really cool experience to like meet Julia Morris. I'd be like, oh my God, will I be friends with celebrities? This is so cool.
We've got a bit of a game for you, Georgia Love. Even though your bachelors failed us on first option of the game, we've got a fun one for you.
Had to have the backup.
Honestly, they're getting abusive messages after this. Don't worry.
So you're a journalist. You're used to asking the tough questions, but now we're going to be asking you the even more tough questions than we've already been asking
Yep.
you. First question. Have you seen every season of The Bachelorette?
Yes. Oh, Australia. Yes.
So besides your own, which one was your favourite?
I think Angie. I just loved how much of a boss babe she was. I loved the way she spoke to the guys who were obviously not there for the right reasons. Yeah, and Sam's, because it was the first, and she's so beautiful, and she just deserved to have guys fighting over her. So I loved that too.
Which season was the most boring for you?
Oh, you can't ask me that. I mean, obviously it was Becky and Ellie. Sorry. Oh,
Becky and
sorry.
Ellie. I was gonna say it for you. I was like, those poor
know,
girls. But
sorry.
do you think it's also a bit dependent on the talent of the
Oh my
men
God,
too?
100%. And talent's the wrong word because they shouldn't be going on it
Yes.
because they're talent. But I do feel like the longer it's gone on and the more social media has become a thing, like in the early days, there was no such thing as an influencer. So people were going on there for the experience of being on the show and or to meet someone. And I think the longer it went on and the more we saw, influencers come out of these shows, the more it became people were just going on it for that. And I feel like especially on The Bachelorette, I feel like a lot of the guys that in the later seasons didn't want to be the guy at the end. They wanted to have the fame and go out and sleep with as many other girls as they could. So let's just say I'm glad I did it when I did. I think I was very lucky.
So Brooke Blurton is said to have earned up to $250K being the Bachelorette. Sophie Monk was rumoured to net in about $300K. What was your salary like to do the show?
I didn't hear that. I'm not going to say what it was, but yeah, fuck, I was stitched up. I was a lonely little newsreader from Tassie. They knew what they were doing.
What was it, Richie?
Richie, that was the same
Yes,
year
it was me.
as
Yeah.
you, right? Apparently he was paid $20,000.
Oh, okay, I did well then. I was more than that.
Okay.
Okay, we've got the ballpark now between 20 to 200. It's in there somewhere.
No, I have thought many times since, because obviously I've seen those articles as well, like rumoured to be paid this much, and Sophie Monk's a massive celebrity. But I was like, fuck, I should have negotiated that, hey?
I wonder if Sophie looks back though and is like, the money
Well, the
wasn't
thing is,
worth
I
it.
got a husband, and that is priceless.
So true. Great answer.
Perfect answer. Do you remember what your first ever argument with Lee was about?
Yes. Yep. It was about the show. He was really struggling watching it because, I mean, I think that's the thing we do not put enough attention on with these shows. We're together, we're a couple, and have been for a couple of months, when he has to then sit down and watch the whole thing. And we had a bit of an argument about that because he was really struggling with seeing me talking to other guys and how, kind of seeing a connection there, and really worrying about whether, I had actually wanted to be with him and if it was just a decision I made on the day, and he was really struggling with that. And I was struggling with him not kind of believing me. So we had a bit of an argument about that, actually, which is probably good. I mean, it's a good thing to argue about if you're going to argue about anything, because it was, he cared that I wanted to be with him.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that was definitely the first.
It's so true though, because you don't you hear people talk about it sometimes when they come off the show and they're doing their exit chats or their winners chats or whatever, and they're like, yeah, it was hard, but it would be really freaking hard. And you know that you're the chosen one in the end and all that kind of stuff, but it's not normal or natural to have to see your partner go on dates with a whole bunch of other people.
And then, having conversations with them and, seeing the way you might be looking at them, and so many things into your head. And me on the other side of it as well, I had times where I, started freaking out about, well, did he actually want me, or was it just like a male thing where you just want to win? And he thought it was me he wanted, but maybe once he's out in the real world, he'll realize it was just the bubble of it all. Oh, Paudry just jumped up on the table. Hello, Pauds. Yeah, special guest Paudry Hepburn. Yes, so it's a pretty messed up show when you think about it.
Well, obviously, The Bachelor, the whole franchise is kind of dead in Australia. What do you think needs to change in order for it to come back to screens?
I think it needs a rest. I think that's a good idea. And they've never said, it's cancelled. They've just said it's not going to be on this year. I think it needs a few years rest. I don't think the formula needs to change. And I feel like that's kind of been proven in the years that they have tried to change it up by, having multiple bachelors or, sisters. I don't think they worked. I think people just need a rest from it, to be honest. And I don't know if it can ever be the same in this social media world we're living in now. Like I was saying before, I don't know how you find a group of people who don't just want to be on it for that. Maybe Instagram has to die. I don't know. We can hope.
My hot take is that they should have rested it in 2020.
Yeah.
If it had rested during those 2 years, I think maybe we would be seeing it now instead of having 3 bachelors and whatever happened.
But hey,
last
it's
time.
kind of cool that Lee and I can say, hey, we're the only successful Bachelorette couple. We high-fived when...
Absolutely.
This is so mean. Whoever it was, the last ones that broke up, we high-fived. We're like, yeah, it's just us, baby.
Wait, yeah, who was the longest running one after you guys then? Was it Ali and Tate?
Yeah.
They
I
were
think
together
so.
about 2 years.
Yeah, it would have been.
Yeah, Brooke and David didn't last long.
No, Sophie and Stu were an absolute setup. That is my conspiracy theory.
She was so
Absolute setup.
amazing, but that season was a nightmare.
Oh, she was great. And I remember watching it being like, not that it was a show that did her so dirty, but I was like, these men are just not it for her. Like, they're just not.
27-year-old Instagram guys. Like, come on.
When you have to have Stu Laundie flown in, like, via chopper to save the day, like, it's getting pretty dire. Anyway, that's enough of my hot takes.
All I can say is I was very lucky.
Our final question for you today, Georgia, is what would you say is the biggest misconception about Georgia Love?
Oh, gosh. I think that, I'm a reality TV person, which sounds dumb because, I did a reality TV show, but I think when I meet people, the main thing I get people saying is, oh, you're really normal, which is such a weird thing to say because I am just a person, as is anyone who's been on reality TV is just a person. But, yeah, I think maybe that's the biggest misconception about me, but maybe about anyone that's done anything like that, is that they would be different to anyone else or think they're any different. So I just yell at Lee for, telling me to put my glass in the dishwasher and really sitting here in my Ugg boots. Like, yeah, I think probably that. Yeah, and that I, kind of, I'm not really in the scene like that. All my greatest loved ones in my life have been in my life for a long time, or aren't on my Instagram that much or anything. I love my life. I've loved my life for my whole life, and it's very much got nothing to do with ever having been on telly 8 years ago.
So if you ever see a headline and it's like Aussie celebrity or Aussie star Georgia Love, are you just like,
no one calls me that. It's always former Bachelorette, which is true. Like, that's a fact. But I'm like, yeah, I'm more than that. I say as I've been talking about myself being on the Bachelorette for the last hour and a half.
Yeah, you say you're not a reality star. Thank you for coming on Confessions of a Reality Star.
And begging to be on Dancing with the Stars.
No, it's going to happen. 2025. I'm feeling good things.
Oh my God. Okay, I'll start working on the sequined outfits.
Channel 7, call us. Well, thank you so much for your time today. It was so lovely chatting with you.
Oh my God, thank you for having me. This has been really fun. And I'm going to go read the rest of these diaries now.
Oh my God, yes.
Please send us photos of the juicy ones.
I will.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of Confessions of a Reality Star. If you like this episode, make sure you give us a 5-star review and follow us on our socials. All the links will be in the show notes. This podcast was recorded on Gadigal land. We pay our respects to the traditional custodians of this country and elders past and present.